to our fresh young novices.
You and your novices, you old perverts.
Hello everyone and welcome back. Last time we saw Henry contact the Crimson Sasau. Unfortunately, they've tasked him with erasing Pious. Henry knows him to be the last member of Ricky's band that's yet to be accounted for, but he's in the dark as to what Pious looks like. His investigative skills will be put to the test. Henry imitates Karl's clothing as closely as possible and sets off for the monastery.
I'm Karl. I'm supposed to enter as a novice.
We expected you sooner. Weren't you supposed to come here with your guardian? It's been so hectic lately, people will keep turning up out of the blue.
He gave me the papers and left me at the gate. You must be used to that, though. I'm not the first novice here, am I?
But that wasn't very considerate of him, was it? It's been so hectic here lately, novices arriving one after the other. The last one didn't even have a letter, and you'd think his backside was on fire, the way he kept looking over his shoulder.
You took him without the letter? You didn't find that suspicious?
My guess is he wanted to hide from someone, but he's a priest and knows how things work in the monastery, so there was nothing to prevent him from being accepted, at least temporarily. You're a different case, though. Are you able to read?
Naturally. I wouldn't be here otherwise.
So then, are you ready to enter the Order of St. Benedict and renounce forever the temptations of this world?
I am.
Then you must rid yourself of all your worldly possessions. Sell them or give them to the poor and needy or donate them to the monastery. You may not enter this place burdened by worldly goods. Inside the gatehouse is a trunk in which you will find monks' robes. Put away all your possessions and dress yourself in the habit. Then you may rest a while I go and see the prior to arrange matters for your acceptance.
Strange feeling being without all of that. I didn't realise how much I'd grown used to it.
Everything's prepared. It's time for you to take your vows.
Do I really have to wear this?
You'd better get used to it. You'll be wearing it for the rest of your life.
Brothers in Christ, we have gathered here today to welcome a new novice into our midst. Dear brother, forget your former life and embrace your new vocation in the community of the monks of St. Benedict. Opus Dei, obedientia, obprobria, the service of God, obedience, and endurance of all discomfort. These are the cornerstones and succor of our order, which on this day shall become your own. Suscipe me, Domine, secundum eloquium tuum, et vivam. Et non confundas me ab expectatione mea.
Sing.
Suscipe me, Domine secundum
Eloquium tum et vivam.
in loquium tuum vivam et non confundas me ab expectatione me
Accept your new name, Brother Gregor, and wear it with honor. Welcome, brother.
Welcome, brother. I am Antonious, a novice like you. I've been instructed to guide you around the monastery and tell you what you can expect and what your duties will be.
Thanks for helping me out during the ceremony. I had no idea what I was supposed to do.
You don't know Latin, do you? Don't worry. Work in the scriptorium will teach you fast enough. Why exactly are you here? Was it your choice? Or did someone force you to come?
I'm being punished. If it were up to me, I'd still be spending my days in taverns and my nights with whores.
I don't envy you. Unfortunately, you're here for the rest of your life.
Let's go then.
Good. But before we do, here's a letter directly from the prior telling you all your regular duties from tomorrow onwards. Make sure to read it this evening, so you know how things work. Right, we can go now. Follow me closely. I'll explain everything as we go. Remember one word: discipline. It's your job to work and pray. You serve the Lord now, not your own bodily needs. Praise be to our Lord Jesus. This is the way to the dormitory, where we all sleep. You'll find a free bed there, which is now yours. Do you know the first thing the monastery taught me? To appreciate sleep. We rise before dawn every day. Takes a bit of getting used to. This is the garden, a place for silent contemplation and meditation. Centuries ago, this monastery was founded by the most esteemed of brothers, Saint Procopius. His earthly remains can be found in a cave under the monastery, and his spirit wanders the corridors at night, punishing any misbehaving novices. So beware. Here are the frattery and scriptorium, together with the library. These are the places where we work. Ora et labora, pray and work. As a novice, you must always listen to your superior brethren, and above us monks are the prior and the circators, who punish every infraction. You'll know them by the canes they carry. Do what they say. This is the refectory, where we come together to eat. During meals, you must be silent. Only one brother reads aloud from the Rule of Saint Benedict.
The rule is the only law we recognize, with the exception of those from God himself. If you break any of its precepts, expect a swift punishment. But I've already told you about the circuitors. The library, the pride of our monastery, a trove of learning. We don't just read books here, we also copy them. You too will learn how. And that's all. Today you are still free from duty, but tomorrow you begin work like the others. If you need anything, ask any of the brothers. We'll be glad to help you. And I recommend you get to know the other novices. You already know me. Then there is Siskin, Yodok, and Lucas.
Will you tell me something about yourself?
There's not much to tell. I lived in Vlashim, and after my father died, I found out I wasn't much of a merchant. So I left the shop to my brother and decided to become a monk. It's peaceful here. There's food and lots of time to read.
So you chose to come here?
It may seem strange, but I'm one of the few novices that did. I might be the only one. The truth is, the idea of spending my life in a monastery was more appealing than being cooped up in a greasy old shop.
Who's in charge of things around here?
Truthfully, everyone except us. But officially, Abbot Peter. And soon enough, someone else. As if it mattered. Our life will still be work and prayer. Abbot Peter is old. When he dies, they'll have to select a new abbot from amongst the brethren. The candidates are John and Nevlas, and if you ask me for my opinion, Nevlas is definitely the right man. Unfortunately, no one cares about my opinion because novices get no say.
There were 4 other novices. Henry gently probed them. Siskin clearly doesn't want to be here, but won't say why or share anything about his life outside.
My name's Gregor, a novice.
You can call me Siskin. Are you here of your own free will, or is this a punishment? Although it's not important. Welcome to purgatory.
Did you say purgatory?
You'll see soon enough. Soon enough.
That's what a bandit would feel about being in the monastery.
Nothing against you.
But would a bandit in hiding say that openly?
Someone really reeked the patents.
You're right. It stunk like a wine barrel in there. And it's not the first time.
It's a mystery, but one that'll be soon solved. It's a wonder the prior doesn't check everyone's breath in the morning. Then he'd soon get his man.
Lucas doesn't know much, or so he says.
Will you tell me something about yourself?
There's nothing I can tell you.
I mean, where you're from, what sort of life you had before, that sort of thing.
I'm a novice, and my monastic name is Lucas. Nothing else matters.
Come on. Is there really nothing at all you can tell me?
I could, but I don't want to. I'm sorry. I want to stay focused on work and prayer, not on who I once was. I never will be again. What has been isn't important for us. We cast the past aside when we walked through the monastery gates and took our oath. Never forget that.
Do you know anything
His hesitant manner of speaking doesn't fit with someone who'd lead Ricky's band, or have the gumption to deal with Runt's bandits. He seems to have kept to himself, which Pious might well do.
Don't you know anyone at all?
Yodok's the oldest, which would fit a bandit in hiding.
I'm Yodok, the oldest of the novices. I hope you'll like it here in the monastery and that you won't get into trouble.
Trouble?
You're young, perhaps intemperate. You might easily stray from the rules of the order. I suggest you get to know the older monks. You never know when it might come in handy.
What can you tell me about Siskin?
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. Believe me, Gregor, he's hiding something from us. In fact, now I come to think of it, I haven't seen him at morning prayers for a while. Nobody knows much about Lucas. He keeps himself to himself. If you ask me, he's got something to hide. I'd keep well clear of him if I was you.
Do you have any grounds for suspecting him of something?
Quite a lot. And also none at all. The circators who make the rounds despise him, and they'd never punish anyone without cause.
Can you tell me?
And he's made sure to ingratiate himself with the circators, which again would fit with someone who's looking to stay in hiding. That's 2 clues. It looks like Siskin's been avoiding morning prayer. We might want to look into what he's doing. Lucas seems to have upset the circators, but nobody knows why. All the signs pointed to a high-ranking member of the monastery being in league with our enemies.
Are there any candidates?
And so Radzig would surely want Henry to keep an open ear while he was inside. It looks like monks in the monastery are still people, with all their petty jealousies and privileges.
John is a circator and the oldest brother here. It would be only natural if he took the crosier from Peter. He has experience, merit, and composure. He'd lead the monastery wisely. Nevlas manages the monastery's property. He doesn't have the most experience, but his drive and heart are pure, his faith firm, and his ideas rational. Although perhaps he's too keen to change our routines here, which many brothers don't like.
Why does it matter so much who wins?
Because the future direction of the monastery hangs in the balance. The younger brothers feel they have to work more than their superior brothers, and that some brothers are more concerned with their own comfort than with worshipping God. The older brothers take a different view. They say the younger monks want privileges they haven't earned, and each side has its own candidate.
Who would you like to be the new abbot?
What kind of question is that? John, of course. Nevlas isn't the kind of candidate you can take seriously.
But it's getting dark, and Henry should become familiar with the schedule he's expected to keep. It looks like most of the day is spent working, but it looks like he'll be free after 7 PM, and beyond 9 PM if he's quiet enough. The meals can also be skipped if he wants some extra time. Henry's stomach had been growling at him all day, and he gets up to find something to eat at the cellars. But it looks like we're not the only ones who like the quiet of the night. Life in the monastery is definitely no holier than life outside.
You've seen us drinking here, so either join in or swear you won't tell a soul. You won't want to end up like Lucas now, would you?
All right. I wouldn't mind some wine.
That's more like it. Sit down and have a drink, my lad. I'll say one thing, brother. This wine would grace the Pope's table.
I'm not so sure. It's a bit sour. God knows what's in it.
Don't be absurd. It's a first-class cask, direct from Znojmo.
No, I know the taste of a good vintage, and this isn't it. I bet you that wretch Yorick got the casks mixed up.
Nonsense. It's perfectly drinkable.
No, it isn't. It's sour. No matter. We'll get more soon, so good health.
Good health.
We'll have to take that Yorick to task about where he got this wine and tell him next time he'd better get proper Znojmo.
What are you doing here?
What does it look like? Drinking.
But we're all monks.
Youngster, when you're as old as I, you'll understand.
But you're the cicators. You're the ones meant to be keeping order here. How can gambling and drinking be a fitting part of a monk's life?
If you really want to know, see for yourself.
You mentioned Yodok. What does he do for you?
Nothing much. He's just a little suckling like you. He'll do whatever it takes to stay on our good side. Sometimes we make use of him when there are errands to run.
Where do you get the wine from? I thought the monastery cellars were guarded.
So they are, but this wine isn't from the monastery. Listen, lad, would you help us out with something? This cask is almost empty and we need a new one. We're a bit old for such exertions. But you, on the other hand...
I'll help you. What do I need to do?
Ha, I knew it. Help Novice Yodok arrange for a new cask. Talk to him first thing in the morning, and by tomorrow night the cask can be on the table.
Tell me something about Nevlas.
Nevlas is weak and toothless. He's full of hot hair. How anyone could think he'd make a good abbot is beyond me. Enough. I don't even want to hear his name again. Nevlas is lying when he says he wants to right wrongs. All he cares about are benefits for himself and his cronies.
I'd like to help you if I can.
There is something you could do. I'm convinced Nevlas must have done something that would greatly damage him if everyone found out. If he was preaching water and drinking wine, for example.
So I should dig something up on him and tell you about it?
Exactly. But I doubt you'll have any luck. Nevlas is too cunning and careful to give anything away.
Once I find something out, I'll tell you.
Let's drink.
That's the idea. And what should we drink to?
How about to the abbot?
To the abbot it is. But wait a minute, lad. Which one?
To Abbot John.
That's more like it.
We seem to have found a little about Lucas, and why the Circators were being so hard on him.
In the night, I overheard the cicators in the cellar. They were talking about you.
Oh no. So it's still not over. This isn't a life in service of God. This is purgatory.
Lucas, what's going on?
What do you think? Just like you, I saw the Circators drinking and playing hazard as if they were in a brothel.
We'd be safer not to get mixed up in the affairs of our superior brethren.
You're probably right. But I was naive and hoped I could fix things.
I warned them if they didn't stop, I'd go and tell the prior. But instead of mending their ways, they vented their anger on me.
You've picked the wrong people to make enemies of, Lucas, they told me. Now I can't even count how many days and nights I've spent locked up in solitary confinement for the tiniest offences, or for no offence at all.
Is there something I can do to help?
Would you? I think all it might take is for you to go and sit down with them. Have a talk, set things straight, then they'd leave me alone. But I'm afraid even this path leads nowhere. They'd probably start hounding you as well.
I'm not afraid of them.
Brother, you have the courage I lack. May the grace of God be upon you.
He was foolish enough to be principled with unprincipled people, but he's clearly not interested in snitching about the drinking. We might be able to convince the Circators to lay off him.
Brother Sequential, my friend.
What would you like? To be relieved from duties?
No, I'm here because of Novice Lucas. I've heard there's some discord with him.
Only because that weasel wants to put an end to our nighttime fun. So, we're letting him know who's in charge here.
I'd appreciate it if you treat him like a brother again.
Well, if he isn't afraid of us, there's nothing to stop him ratting us out. But what do you care anyway? Grown fond of him, have you?
I can vouch for him. He'll be as meek as a lamb, I promise.
Fine then. I'll take your word for it.
God be with
Tell him if he keeps on the way he has, he'll only hurt himself more. But if he uses his head, he'll be forgiven. Beware of Lucas. He might corrupt you.
What do you mean?
He's a sodomite, a sinner. He might try to get you into the habit. Or out of it.
An obvious candidate for Yejek's insider may be Circator John. The older monks clearly only support him because they'll benefit from his corruption.
The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on the spirit of silence. Let us do what the prophet says. I said, I will guard my ways, that I may not sin with my tongue. I have set a guard to my mouth. I was mute and was humbled and kept silence even from good things. Here the prophet shows that if the spirit of silence ought to lead us at times to refrain even from good speech, so much the more ought the punishment for sin make us avoid evil words. Therefore, since the spirit of silence is so important, permission to speak should rarely be granted even to perfect disciples, even though it be for good, holy, edifying conversation. For it is written, in much speaking you will not escape sin. And in another place, death and life are in the power of the tongue. For speaking and teaching belong to the master. The disciple's part is to be silent and to listen. And for that reason, if anything has to be asked of the superior, it should be asked with all the humility and submission inspired by reverence. But as for coarse jests and idle words, or words that move to laughter, these we condemn everywhere with a perpetual ban. And for such conversation we do not permit a disciple to open his mouth.
I've heard that you, that you enjoy the company of men. Is there any truth to it?
What?
But worse than last time.
How do you know that?
I'll tell you.
The cicadas told
going
me.
to happen out there.
They'll never leave me in peace. Yes, you can call me a sodomite, a sinner, a monster, the spawn of Satan. But tell me this, Gregor. Can I help the way I am? I tell you, it's a test of my faith. A test so daunting you can't even imagine it.
You're right. I found it interesting, but I'm not judging you. You are the way you are. You should be true to yourself.
I'm glad you aren't like the others. Thank you for not passing judgment. I swear to God, I've never lain with another man. I've never sinned. When my father wanted me to find a wife and start a family, I told him the truth, and he had me sent here. And in a way, I was glad. My guilt had been consuming me, and I knew in the monastery I'd find peace. The Lord sees my soul, and he knows it's pure.
I spoke to the cicadas about how they've been treating you.
Really? Did you manage to convince them to leave me alone?
But you have to promise not to tell anyone what you saw them doing. Then they'll leave you alone.
That's a promise I'd be glad to make. I'm forever in your debt, brother. Because now I know I can trust you, there's something I want to tell you. It's about Brother Antonious. I wouldn't like to say something that isn't true. God forbid I should cause harm by my words, but this is something I'm sure of. Novice Antonious is lying to us.
What makes you say that?
He claims he's a merchant's son from Vlashim, and that he joined the order voluntarily. The thing is, I spent a great deal of time in Vlashim. I know it like the back of my hand, and no one even remotely like Antonious has ever lived there.
Are you sure? Because this could mean that...
It's true, or Canute isn't my name. That would be my secular name, by the way, but that's not important. I know Vlashim, and I know the local merchants there, and I've never seen Antonious among them. Why would he be lying if he had nothing to hide?
Thank you for telling me. I'll look into it. I'm Gregor, a novice.
I know. I saw you at the ceremony. My name is Nebulous, and I'm the provost here. I'm in charge of the monastery's property, as well as handling trade with the outside world.
That means you get to leave the monastery?
No, not at all. I just write lists and send them out.
Tell me about yourself.
I'm the provost of this monastery. It's my job to ensure the monks live a humble life and that any surpluses go to the poor. But in reality, I spend all my time making sure my brother's gluttony and the construction of a new church don't swallow up the few resources we have left.
I'm interested in the election of the new abbot.
You're not alone. Everyone's so worked up about that they spent no time considering how they could make the monastery a better place now.
Why? What's wrong with it now?
Many brothers think more about their stomachs than prayer. The older brethren bend the rules of the order to make them fit their interests. So, to balance the scales, they want the novices to lead exemplary lives. Sin abounds here, just as in the outside world. But you, brother, don't let yourself get involved in the games of your superiors. Could you help me with something?
With what?
I'm interested in medicine, and I know there's a cure for the abbot's ailment. With your help, I could find out the details, and together you and I could give old Peter a few more years to do good. What do you say? In order to get the recipe for this medicament, a few rules will need to be broken. Now, you know, most of the brothers believe every illness is a message from God, and that it's not our place to deny his will. I, however, think if God sent us not just illnesses, but also the medicine to cure them, then it's our duty to relieve people of their suffering. The cure for Abbot Peter's illness could be contained in one of the books in our library, but it will certainly be amongst the Libri Prohibiti, the forbidden books, those we aren't permitted to read.
Why are they forbidden?
Because they contain occult and demonic practices, witchcraft and all manner of evil. Or so some people claim. It's nonsense, of course. This is nothing but a book of medicine, albeit one written by a pagan. Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna, is universally acknowledged to be a wise man. But here, at some point, someone decided his book is the work of a Saracen devil and must be kept under lock and key. Since then, no one can even talk about the book. But the three wise men were from the East, were they not? In the library, there's a large cabinet with a lock on it. The forbidden books are inside. You'll easily recognize what you're looking for. The cover has not only a Latin inscription, but also Saracen letters. Bring it to me, but leave the other books there. No one will notice if one book disappears, but if more were to vanish, someone would certainly begin to look into it, which is exactly what we don't want. There's a key to the cabinet in the prior's chambers. The librarian should have another one, or you can acquire some lockpicks. But I can't tell you where or how. Perhaps Brother Celarius could help.
Why can't you do it yourself?
Because I'm one of the highest-ranking monks here, and one day I'd like to become abbot. Can you imagine me crawling around in the black of night searching for a forbidden book?
You could just ask for it.
Do you honestly think I haven't tried? Unfortunately, Librarian Cyril is a stubborn ass. One more important thing. There's always someone in the library during the day. To pass unwatched, you'll need to go at night. It's locked, but I'm sure you'll manage to get in. They say Brother Celarius understands locks, but don't tell him why you need it. Once you have the book, bring it to me, and I'll then use it to make Peter's medicine. We'll soon have the election of the abbot over and done with.
I'd be interested to know more about Brother John.
I don't like to speak ill of people, but Circuitor John is the worst person the monks could pick to represent them. He's nothing but an old schemer and pedant who preaches water but drinks wine. He's won the older brethren over because they know he won't call an end to their debauchery.
Why do you want to become abbot?
Because when I see the way things are headed around here, I have no other option. Itinerant preachers speak of the corrupted black heart of the church, and I can't deny there's truth in what they say. I'd like to change things and bring back meaning and esteem to the monastery.
Is there any way I could help you get elected? Somehow tip the scales in your favour?
What would you like to do? Climb up the tower and shout, "Vote for Nevilis, vote for Nevilis"?
Not exactly. You do have an opponent, John.
John isn't my opponent, he's my brother. Just like you and everyone else here. We're all brothers in Christ. But there is something you could help me with. You must know there's a great deal of iniquity here in the monastery. I'd be interested to hear of anything I don't know about.
Should I find out for you what's going on around here?
Let me make this clear. I want to base my candidacy on putting things in order. But if I don't know exactly what's wrong, then my promises are just empty slogans.
Very good then. I'll find out what I can. I'm here to work.
Excellent. I've been waiting for you. There's the alchemist's laboratory. You'll find ingredients in the chests next to it. I want you to prepare 2 marigold decoctions. Once you finish them, you'll find me somewhere nearby. Don't forget to let me know when you're done so I can check them.
Nebula seems to have the best interests of the monastery at heart. The problem is that this could be a very carefully curated pretense. He clearly wants Henry to dig up information on the corruption in the monastery, but it's also true that he can't be seen doing that digging. Either way, it's not a bad idea to play both sides of the field for the time being. Another factor that needs to be taken into account is that he's responsible for the supply the monastery procures and the finances. The overseer's hand mentioned that he was blackmailed with information about his misuse of monastery supplies. Moreover, he's one of the few monks with contact with the outside world. The abbot seems to have been away from the monastery for a long time, so unless the bandit's ally is a prior, it would be nebulous.
Spectacular, Gregor. You've found your talent. Soon enough, you'll be teaching the other novices.
The librarian doesn't seem to have any oddities, other than perhaps his love of works of art, as he puts it. Basically, he likes erotica.
I'm here to work.
Good. This is most likely the first time you've ever done this in your life. But it's easier than you think. Just a bit of practice and learning Latin. Here's the original, and here are the blank parchments on which you'll copy what you read in the original. Is that clear? Then you may begin, and try not to make a mess of it.
Is it possible to learn something about the other novices in the library?
Only the abbot and the prior keep such records.
And can I see them?
No. The abbot writes and keeps his records in his chambers, and only he and the prior are permitted to read them.
I've heard there are some forbidden books locked up in the library.
That's correct. They're here, safely hidden away from anyone who might be tempted to read them.
What if I just wanted to take a peek? Could I?
You could not. They are Libri Prohibiti, and the only people permitted access to them are the abbot and I. Although I see no reason why he or I would ever want to read them.
Could a book be prohibited by mistake? Maybe a good book or a useful one?
No errors are made. Every book on the prohibited list is there for a reason. Who am I to doubt the wisdom of Mother Church?
How does a book get on the forbidden list?
Forbidden works are full of heresy and blasphemy and witchcraft. If you ask me, we should burn them immediately, not archive them.
Is there anything I can do to help here?
I'm glad you asked. There's one thing, a silly thing really. I haven't thought to mention it to anyone before, but not long ago, a brother brought me a crumpled piece of parchment. He says he found it rolled up in a hole in the wall. The thing is, it was a page from Ovid.
Ovid? What is that? Is it the name of a book?
Not what, but who? Ovid was a great Roman poet. We have a few volumes by him in the library, but one of them vanished one day. Now I believe I can guess what happened. Brother Eustace, may the earth rest lightly on him, was quite narrow-minded when it came to classical literature. If a book had any mention of woman at all, he condemned it as a heretical work. If he'd had his way, all such books would have been burned. Ovid's The Art of Love must have been such a thorn in his side that he stole it from the library, tore it up, and hid the pages wherever he could. The Art of Love is a sort of manual instructing young people how to find and maintain love. It's a lovely work. I don't understand what bothered Eustace so much about it, but as I was saying, he considered the book to be immoral and tore it up to stop it corrupting any of his brothers.
Good. I'll look around for it.
Thank you, brother. It's of no great importance, but if you can find all 10 pages, I'll be most grateful.
There's nothing to be lost by helping him though. But we've also found another clue. The register of the novices is found in the Abbots' chambers. Looks like a few pages are scattered in the library itself.
The forbidden books.
Don't even look at
must
that
be in
cabinet. It contains forbidden books.
He tried, but Henry had only learned to read, not write.
No, I can't believe you've made so many mistakes. The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on daily manual labor. Idleness is the enemy of the soul. Therefore, the brethren should be occupied at certain times in manual labor, and again at fixed hours in sacred reading. To that end, we think that the times for each may be prescribed as follows. From Easter until the calends of October. When they come out from prime in the morning, let them labor at whatever is necessary until about the 4th hour. And from the 4th hour until about the 6th, let them apply themselves to reading. After the 6th hour, having left the table, let them rest on their beds in perfect silence, or if anyone may perhaps want to read, let him read to himself in such a way as not to disturb anyone else. Let none be said rather early, at the middle of the 8th hour, and let them again do what work has to be done until vespers. Weak or sickly brethren should be assigned a task or craft of such a nature as to keep them from idleness, and at the same time not to overburden them or drive them away with excessive toil. Their weakness must be taken into consideration by the abbot.
Brother Solaris is best spoken to during meal times. If you didn't think to stash lockpicks, you can speak to him to purchase some. He can also steal the prize keys if you pay him 200 gold, which is an almost impossible amount, unless you have access to your inventory outside, or you abuse the game systems by looting the entire monastery. There is one way, but we'll come to that later.
Praise be to Christ, brother.
I'm looking for something a little, unorthodox.
And what would that be exactly?
I'm looking for lockpicks.
Lockpicks? And what would you like those for?
I'd like to practice opening locks, just for the fun of it.
Well, why not? So you heard I used to be a burglar, did you? I put it all behind me as soon as I took the vows. But I do have a few lockpicks left. I'll trade them for food. Get me a bite to eat, and you can have your lockpicks. Can't say fairer than that, can I?
I need to get some wine.
You're not the only one. But I have to keep records of all the casks, and the prior checks on them. He'd notice any loss straight away. Just like our food, everything's rationed. So I'm sorry, but I'll have to disappoint you, brother.
You have some interesting skills for a monk. Don't suppose you want to tell me how you picked them up?
What's there to tell? We were all young and foolish once. I was a student in Prague, completely broke, living from hand to mouth and studying all day. It wasn't an easy life.
So you turned to stealing?
I set about securing a livelihood as best I could. A goose, some new shoes, a bit of coin to spend with my friends. Without that little bit extra, I'd never have completed my studies. I would have turned into a beggar. And who else do you know that can say he's serving God thanks to having been a thief?
No one, brother. Thank you for telling me your story. Brother, I've a favour to ask, and I think you're the man to help me with it. Or you used to be, before you came here.
I see, so it's the dodgy sort of favour, is it?
Well, yes. I need to get hold of the keys to the monastery.
That won't be easy, I can tell you that straight off. The prior always keeps the keys close by him. So how exactly do you imagine I could help?
Could you take the keys off him?
Rob the prior? You've got to be joking.
You wouldn't be doing it for free?
Then what could you possibly pay me? I'm done with my thieving, and you'd have to offer me a whole lot of groschen to change my mind.
How much would you want?
A princely sum, brother. This is no trifling matter.
That much? Where am I supposed to find that much coin? No one here has any money.
Precisely. But no groschen, no theft. And think twice before you ask me that kind of favor again.
There's a couple of other pages that you can access without lockpicks. But to retrieve all the pages, Anew will need access to his stash of lockpicks. Another option is to find a lockpick behind the altar at the cathedral. Something strange turns up in one of the lockers.
What do we have here? A nice sharp dagger. Now what would a monk need that for?
The rest of the pages are to be found in locked chests, in the dormitory, the corridor, and the meal room. It's not stated anywhere, but if you ask yourself what part of the monastery would require regular contact with the outside world, you might well say the kitchen. If you think of this and check the cellars, you can find the keys to the monastery. The last scattered page requires high-level lockpicking skills because it's in the Abbots' room, but it seems that Henry is not the only novice who's sneaking around at night.
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
Well, probably the same as you. I want to be able to read in peace and quiet. And not just the books they make us read.
What exactly do you read here?
Well, I'd be interested to find the unofficial biography of Saint Procopius, but there probably is no such thing. To be honest, I was expecting some entertaining reading, but it's just the same old stuffy nonsense. But if that locked cabinet there with all the forbidden books was open, that would be a different story. Until recently it was still unlocked, but after something vanished, they've kept it locked tight. Books are meant to be read, so why keep them hidden away? If you're able to get inside, I'll be grateful till the day I die. All I'll do is leaf through a few books and then put them right back.
The prior's room is immediately beyond the scriptorium,
What are you doing here?
and you can take the chance to pickpocket the monastery keys from him if you don't have them already. A very hard, locked door separates the prior's room from the abbot's study. The study has the abbot's personal records, including the novice records the librarian mentioned.
What have we here? It looks like a book with the names of all the novices.
The abbot's writing echoes what Lucas said about Antonious' story, seeming inconsistent.
Interesting. But I still don't know which one of them is Pious.
The abbot is not present. As the other monks mentioned, he's more often outside the monastery, but he too seems to like Roman erotica, because the last scattered page is here. We now have all the pages the librarian needs to learn the art of love.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. See you soon.